Well, on this week's Western Caucus podcast here in the Senate, our special guest is caucus member Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska. And I'm just so pleased to be with you. And thanks for coming in and doing our
Cynthia,
podcast.
thank you. I love it. And thanks for your leadership on the Western Caucus. By the way, thanks for coming out and visiting me and Julie in the great state of Alaska this summer.
That was a
We loved hosting you. It was wonderful that you were up with us. So we really appreciate it. And all my fellow Alaskans loved having the senator from Wyoming in our state.
Well, thank you. We got to go fishing, and it was kind of the trip of a lifetime in a way.
Great.
And then fun to be with some of your officials talking transportation with Sean Duffy and housing with the head of HUD. I mean, it was a great trip. Thanks for inviting me.
It was great. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Come back anytime.
I will take you up on that. It was fabulous. So there's a couple things that well, first, why don't we talk about you? How did you get in the U.S. Senate? How did you get to Alaska?
Yeah.
Tell us about you.
Well, I wasn't born in Alaska, but I got there as quick as I could. The very short, true story is I fell in love with a beautiful woman from Alaska. My wife, Julie, we've now been married for 31 years. She was born and raised in Fairbanks, and I fell in love with her. Then I fell in love with the state. So, that all happens quick, but that was 31 years ago. We got married in Fairbanks, Alaska. And so I've spent a fair amount of time in the military. I just retired last year after 30 years in the Marine Corps on active duty in the reserves. And then when I got to Alaska, I was involved in, a lot of these issues we're going to talk about. I was the Commissioner of Natural Resources and Energy in our state. I was the Attorney General. But all those were, in Alaska, those are appointed by the governor and then confirmed by the legislature, kind of like the federal system. And in 2014, kind of what happened with the Biden administration, we had a Democratic senator who, nice guy, but I don't think was standing up to the Obama administration nearly enough. We had the Obama administration just completely shutting down Alaska's resource development the way the Democrats always do. They're driven by the far left to just crush our economy, kill jobs. And then you might remember Obama's second term cut defense spending by over 25%, completely gutted readiness, no focus, on lethality and war fighting. And, I'd never run for office, but I said, damn it, these are issues I care really deeply about. They're creaming Alaska. They're killing the military. My current Alaska senator, I don't think is doing a good enough job to push back on Obama. So I threw my hat in the ring and had a tough primary with a lot of good Republicans and then beat a Democrat incumbent. And that's how I got here.
And you serve on Armed Services.
Yep, Armed Services.
And
Veterans Affairs. So Alaska has more veterans per capita than any state in the country, so we're very proud of that. EPW, which is what a lot of these issues with you.
Yes.
And Commerce. And, that's a great committee as well.
It is. So we have two committees in common, EPW and Commerce. So why don't we start with some of the work we're doing together on the Environment and Public Works Committee?
Yes.
Okay. So something that happened to a constituent of mine and constituents of yours has brought us together. I am joining you as you are the lead sponsor of the Cold Weather Diesel Reliability Act.
Yep.
And could you go tell your story about that, what brought you to that bill?
Well, look, it was a constituent of mine, Coke Wallace, who's a great Alaskan, and we had this, what happens in Alaska, what happens, I'm sure, in Wyoming. The feds do these one-size-fits-all regulations that almost never work in Alaska because we're different. We got unique challenges and unique circumstances, unique opportunities. And this was an EPA reg for trucks and heavy equipment that requires emission systems that trigger an engine shutdown with regard to diesel exhaust fluid. In the levels there, but when diesel exhaust fluid, the systems freeze at just 12 degrees
12
Fahrenheit.
degrees Fahrenheit. So imagine how many times it gets below 12 degree Fahrenheit in your state and mine.
It's probably below 12 degrees right now. I mean, we get down to 40, 50 below zero, right? And so this was an EPA reg clearly designed for the lower 48, but not even lower 48. Wasn't designed for Wyoming, wasn't designed for Alaska.
Yeah, very much designed for southern climates.
So in extreme cold, what this ends up doing, it ends up shutting down diesel engines. And we have truckers who drive all the way to the North Slope. You know, some of you may have seen the show Ice Road Truckers. They go up what we call the Haul Road. But it's cold, and this is very dangerous because we have people who drive in remote areas in very cold weather. And think about it, their engine gets shut down. And then they're at 45 below zero. There's not a gas station within 200 miles, and their engine stuff. I mean, that can kill you. So this is just legislation, and thank you for being one of the co-sponsors, just common sense, right? Like a good chunk of America, sorry, Washington, D.C., EPA, you got to take care of all of us. A good chunk of America, this reg doesn't work, and it's dangerous. And so when you and I talked about this in the EPW committee recently, I posted that on Facebook. My Facebook page lit up with so many, not just Alaskans, people all over the country saying, that's happened to me.
Exactly.
Go Senator Lummis, go Senator Sullivan, get this thing done. So we're on to something. Hopefully my Democratic colleagues can, you know, some of this is a little zealot, you know, the zealots on the far left, they think anything with a, you know, combustible engine is wrong. It's not wrong. But hopefully you and I can get this passed here soon. But it's a common sense bill that will help people in cold weather and keep them safe, for goodness sakes, and let their equipment operate.
Fire trucks are frequently diesel engines.
Yep.
School buses, sometimes diesel engines, occasionally ambulances. So you've got emergency vehicles that cannot operate in the cold weather.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about my constituent, Troy Lake. He's a great diesel mechanic. He was helping keep diesel engines run by disabling these diesel exhaust fluid devices.
Yeah.
And the EPA came in, raided his shop, and then years go by, and he gets prosecuted criminally.
Crazy.
And this is not a law. This is a rule and regulation passed by the EPA. But he gets thrown in jail for 7 months due to an EPA rule and regulation.
Yeah.
And so he was home in Cheyenne, wearing an ankle bracelet, you know, confined to the home for the remainder of his sentence. So President Trump, just last week, gave him a full unconditional pardon.
Great.
And he was very emotional when he got the pardon from the president. And I've since seen multiple diesel engine, whether they're truckers going across the roads or mechanics applauding the president's decision. So you and I are on to something.
Well, look, first of all, great job on behalf of your constituent, right? I mean, you know, the fact that he got pardoned was because of Cynthia Lummis, right?
Well, and those are the kind of things that are gratifying because you're helping everyday people that are keeping this country moving, working.
Yeah, and I got to look into that with regard to what's going on in Alaska. But here's the thing. The other thing about the EPA, you know, we got a lot of issues with the EPA up in Alaska. They did something similar to a mechanic shop, a vehicle repair shop in Palmer, Alaska, and Wasilla, Alaska. This is what we call the Mat-Su Valley. And they didn't send them, hey, we think you're violating this law. Please work with us. Here's a civil notice. You need to fix it. These guys literally on one of these raids, 30 armed agents
Jeez.
from the EPA came in, kicking in the door to raid a, mechanic shop with 4 guys in it.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought up EPA agents from the lower 48. By the way, I wrote the EPA administrator a long letter under Biden saying, hey, what the hell were you doing? And by the way, did any of these guys come up to my state and go fishing? Right? Why are all these EPA agents in my state raiding a mechanic shop? 30 armed agents. By the way, they did this before I was in the Senate. There was a raid in a place called Chicken, Alaska, where the EPA came in full body armor to go after placer miners in Alaska who were supposedly violating the Clean Water Act. They didn't find one violation, but they brought a bunch of guys in body armor, assault rifles. So it's just outrageous, right?
Yeah, it is outrageous.
This is why my first bill, and you and I got to get this over the goal line. My first bill that I introduced in the Senate was to disarm the EPA, right? The EPA doesn't need a SWAT team.
That's right.
Right? If they need to do some kind of enforcement that they think could be a little dangerous, they can call the state troopers and say, hey, Alaska state troopers, come with me. Well, we don't need SWAT teams as part of the EPA. It's an outrage.
Well, I hope that Lee Zeldin is dismantling that part of
I
the
hope
EPA.
he is too. I think he's doing a great job. And
I do too.
Trust me, he has learned all about these issues. And but yeah, these are just common sense for our constituents.
Exactly. And we're lucky that Lee Zeldin would take that job on.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Alaska getting singled out for special treatment by the Biden administration, tell us about the lockup.
Okay. So anyways, I carry this around a lot. You've seen it. I talk about this on the Senate floor in committee hearings. So this is what I refer to as the last frontier lockup. What is it? It's the 70 executive orders and executive actions that the Biden administration exclusively, singularly focused on Alaska. So this isn't like a big EPA regulation that hurts Alaska, hurts Wyoming. 70. When this was at 48, and by the way, it's all over the state, every part of the state, every part of our economy, Alaska Native veterans who needed an allotment. It just kind of went after everybody in my state. When this was at 48, I was in a meeting with Joe Biden in the Oval Office on a giant oil and gas project that's transformative to Alaska that he was getting ready to shut down. It's called the Willow Project in the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska, set aside by Congress for petroleum development.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. And he was getting ready to lock that one up. I gave him this. And I said, Mr. President, do you have any idea what you're doing to my state? You are crushing working families. You are killing thousands of jobs. Why are you at war with my state? You are sanctioning Alaska more than you sanction Iran and Venezuela and their terrorist states. And my people are American citizens. So the good news is this is no longer. I love doing this. I never tire. I do it in front of Alaskans all the time. We rip this up and we are going after each one of these. But the real champion is President Trump. I showed him that right after he got elected. I said, Mr. President, we're going to need help. Biden guys are trying to crush us. Of course, that hurts Alaskans, but when you hurt Alaska, you hurt the whole country.
Sure.
Given all the resources we have, this was the day one executive order from President Trump. It's very detailed, very long. It's called Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential. There it is. There's his signature. And it is essentially trying to reverse all of the bad stuff that Biden did. So we have great help from the president and his team. And of course, we're doing it with our Congressional Review Act resolutions to rescind laws. So congratulations on your CRA.
Thank you.
That we just voted on. Right?
Exactly.
Was that final passage or is
Today
that the
was motion to proceed?
Okay.
So tomorrow, final passage.
So you're doing the same thing. You had was that the BLM that was?
It was the BLM. Under Biden, the BLM locked up 500,000 acres of coal
in Wyoming.
In Wyoming, putting it off limits
Incredible.
to mining or new leasing. And Wyoming produces 40% of the United States coal.
Oh my goodness.
And that
It's
is
incredible.
It is incredible, and it's necessary for making electricity that is going to be used for artificial intelligence and for data centers and just for everyday needs to meet the electric needs of our nation.
Yeah.
And so to just lock it up and pretend that at some point we'll figure out how to produce enough wind and solar energy that it can replace it doesn't make sense at all. We're never going to be able to do that, especially when you look at the almost insatiable demands of artificial intelligence for energy.
Yeah.
So we just have to learn how to use our fossil fuels in a cleaner way.
Yeah.
And it's really pretty stunning. We have in eastern Wyoming, there's some underground rock formations that can store the emissions.
Oh, good.
And so there are going to be some opportunities in Wyoming to produce electricity with natural gas and coal that will be at or near zero emissions.
Great.
Yeah, so we're
good.
And that's just Yankee ingenuity.
Yeah, absolutely.
To pretend that we're not going to innovate our way out of it is just to say, well, Americans don't innovate anymore. We innovate every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Well, congrats, because a Congressional Review Act resolution is our way in the Congress of rescinding a previous regulation from an administration that we don't like, and you had a good start on yours. We've rescinded a bunch of these 70 EOs with using CRAs in the Senate relating to Alaska, but I was proud to vote for your CRA today on Wyoming. It's great.
Mine, I as well am just so grateful that we had a chance to address some of the wrong that occurred for Alaskans.
We got one more coming.
Oh, good.
That's when they shut down ANWR. I mean, we passed in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, finally, after 40 years, to get the coastal plain of ANWR open for development. Joe Biden comes in and literally says, I'm going to shut it down. And we're like, you can't do that. It's against the law. It's in the law. You got to lease the land in ANWR. I'm going to shut it down. He shut it down. And believe it or not, even a liberal federal judge in Alaska ruled that what he did was fully illegal.
Wow.
And so we're going to rescind that Biden regulation too.
Well, I'm just so grateful to get to serve in the U.S. Senate while President Trump is president, to right a lot of these wrongs that occurred when Biden was president. Hey, one more question?
Sure.
Okay, when I was up visiting you this summer, we talked about an issue that I had not heard before because I'm from a landlocked state, don't spend much time around water. You have a tremendous coastline there in Alaska. Deepwater Port at Nome.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that the United States doesn't have a deepwater port on the entire western side of Alaska.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So tell us about the efforts at Nome.
Well, look, it's a great project that we're working on. Nome is part of our western part of Alaska. And Alaska is a very big state. As a matter of fact, in terms of coast, we have more coastline than the rest of the lower 48 states combined. And we have a very busy activities in the Arctic right now because the Russians and the Chinese are up in our airspace with Russian strategic bombers, Chinese strategic bombers. They're doing joint missions, which is unprecedented, with fighter aircraft. And their navies are pushing into our exclusive economic zone. As a matter of fact, today in the Commerce Committee hearing, when we had the confirmation hearing of the Commandant of the Coast Guard, he talked about how there was 5 Chinese vessels just the north part of Alaska off our coast this summer doing quote-unquote research. Well, I said in the hearing, research means spying. They were spying on us.
Yeah.
So we are building up our military in terms of fighter aircraft and tankers to intercept the air component of these incursions, which are very regular. We've had 6 Russian incursions into our airspace since August. And I mean, this is very regular. It doesn't get a lot of news in the lower 48. Our military and Coast Guard go intercept them every time. But when it comes to the ocean, they're also being very aggressive, and it's subsea too. We get a lot of subs from the Russians, even some Chinese now. And so we need port infrastructure in the Arctic that can home base icebreakers, destroyers, submarines. And so 2 really big ones that we're working on right now is a port of Nome. So that's the western part of our state. Again, we don't have a port that can handle any kind of military aircraft. The closest, military surface warfare ships, the closest one is Anchorage, which is about 1,200 miles away from Nome.
Gee.
And Dutch Harbor, which is out on the Aleutian Island chain. So this is a port that we're going to build, a deep water port. We're starting to build it.
So do you have to dredge it?
We have to dredge it, but we have the funds from the Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers really likes it. The U.S. Navy, the Coast Guard really like it, and it will be able to handle every warship that we have in the Navy and in the Coast Guard, with the exception of a U.S. aircraft carrier and probably submarines. But everything else, destroyers, frigates, icebreakers. So it's exciting. And then in the budget reconciliation bill, I was able to get money to start to reopen the very strategic naval base at Adak, Alaska. So Adak, Alaska is way out on the Aleutian Island chain. It's actually 1,100 miles west of Hawaii. I mean, it is pushing into Russia and China and Japan. It's near the international date line. It's that far out. And we used to have a giant naval air station there, a Navy base, and a submarine base. Mm-hmm. And we have we still have 2 runways there. We still have a big hangar, and we have a 22 million gallon fuel storage facility that can fuel warships and Navy aircraft and Air Force aircraft. So I was able to get $115 million in the budget reconciliation bill to start to reopen the Adak Navy base, and the Chinese are hating it, which is usually a very good sign.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we need infrastructure to protect the northern flank of America, the Arctic. The Russians and Chinese see how important that part of the world is.
Yeah.
We need to wake up to that fact, and we're doing it with some of these big infrastructure developments.
Well, I woke up to that fact just by virtue of coming up to Alaska this summer, because I wasn't aware of any of that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the great advantages when we travel together, visit each other. Not only did I get to bring home some great halibut and salmon, but I also got to learn a lot about especially the geopolitical strategic position that Alaska's in, and how if we just take advantage of what we already have in Alaska and improve it and prepare it to address some of these really immediate geopolitical issues, as well as the long-term strategy of doing nothing, having it all that time and not preparing to use it. But I'm just so glad you're there to help guide us into...
Well, there's a lot going on there, but with good colleagues like you, all these things, they take the Senate working together. And I think on the Republican side, the Western Caucus side for sure, we're very aligned on energy, on national security, on the strategic value of our resources for our fellow citizens, but also for the world. And it's great serving with you.
It's great serving with you. You come so highly prepared for representing Alaska. You were their attorney general. You ran their natural resources agencies, and you married well. That Julie, she's top drawer.
She's top drawer. I married up. Sometimes I'm still like, damn, I can't believe she married me.
So for the Western Caucus is. Hey, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Cynthia. Thanks. Thanks for your leadership on the Western Caucus.
My pleasure.
It's great.
It's just great serving with you.
You
Thank
too.
you. So for the Western Caucus podcast, you have Cynthia Lemus and Dan Sullivan signing off. Thanks for being with us.